Blessings. Welcome to today's Law Enforcement Daily Devotional. Today we're in the book of Philippians. A really neat book, a lot of cool things going on. Written by Paul, as have been the last couple of books. But in chapter 1, verse 6, I want to start with this. Paul says, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. It reminds me of something my pastor likes to say, that God's calls are irrevocable. That if God has called you to a ministry, that call doesn't just go away. You can't run away from it. You can't hide from it. We saw that with Jonah. God called him to go to Nineveh, and he tried to run, get on a ship and go to Tarshish, and he wound up going to Nineveh and fulfilling the calling that God had put on him. If God's put a calling in your life, and you may need to take some time to think about what's the last thing that you felt God called you to, and have you done it? A lot of times you won't get another opportunity to do anything until you fulfilled what he called you the first time to do. So in chapter 1 verses 9 through 11, this sounds more like a closing statement at the end of a book, but he's put it right here in the beginning of chapter 1. And for me, and I doubt Paul did this on purpose for this reason, but I read it and I'm like, wow, that's a closing statement. So it immediately got my attention and made me go back and reread it and focus on it to see what is Paul saying here at the beginning of chapter 1 of this book. And 9 through 11 say, and this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in the knowledge and depth of insight, so that you may be able to discern what is best and may be pure and blameless for the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ, to the glory and praise of God. There's a whole lot there to unpack. But first, Paul's saying that he is praying for this church, and I think it's safe to say that this book is canon, so it's for us as Christians, that we also need to continue to grow in our knowledge and our understanding of God and of Christ. We've talked about the more we know him, the more we love him. So Paul is first saying, continue to grow in that. With this knowledge and understanding, you'll be able to make right choices when it comes to the battle between the flesh and the spirit. We're going to fight this battle every day for the rest of our lives until Christ returns. So we have to prepare ourselves for this war every day. And like Paul says, growing in this knowledge and understanding of Christ and his word gives us more and more tools on our tool belts and more weapons to fight this daily struggle. So Paul wants us to continue to grow in this. It's a journey. He wants us to continue to go, continue to move in this journey. And if you notice, the New Testament is all about action. It's all about doing and going and wisdom of action. So not only to know and to understand these things, but to do the right thing, actions, to do them, to do the right thing spiritually, to be pure and blameless, as Paul puts it, being imitators of and recognized as being children of Christ, children of God. I guess brothers with Christ, but children of God. Then in chapter 1, verse 27, Paul says something that we've heard the last 2 days. And when there's this kind of a thread, this underlying theme, we really need to stop and take notice of it. And we have the last 2 days. I mean, we've talked about it quite a bit. But Paul says, whatever happens, conduct yourself in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. Now, the last 2 days, Paul's been talking about walking out this journey in a manner worthy of your calling. And today he's saying, conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel of Christ. So there's this expectation of, it's above and beyond. being a Christian is above and beyond being just a non-Christian, normal human being. I mean, we are expected to live and reflect Jesus Christ and to be love to other people. That's a worthy manner. Looks like I missed something. The rest of verse 27, it says, whatever happens, conduct yourself in a worthy manner of the gospel of Christ. Then, whether I come to see you or only hear about you in my absence, I will know that you stand firm in the one Spirit, striving together as one for the faith of the gospel. That's worthy. That's being worthy. I looked up worthy just to kind of see if I could gain any insight from just any dictionaries, and it said being worthy is having or showing the qualities or abilities that merit recognition in a special way. After I looked at these things and looked at worthy, and I looked at a couple of different places to see what I could glean from dictionaries about being worthy. Worthy is right up there with the word nobility, or being noble. Being noble and worthy kind of are on the same plane. And when we walk our faith out in a worthy manner or in a noble manner, you can see where those two they're very similar. A good friend of mine from my church who works in the mission field. He spent uh, several years in China. He has a team of missionaries in China, and he continues to travel back and forth to supervise the teams that he has on the ground there. And whenever I ask him or hear other people ask him about his missionary work and his journeys and all the time it takes to travel back and forth and the time away from his family, he will always say, it's not easy, but it's worthy. I love the thought of that. The work he's doing is worth the sacrifice he's making. It's worthy. I love that thought. Almost out of time, and I haven't even gotten into chapter 2 yet. Chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. Especially chapter 4, there are so many verses that are just, verses you pull out and you memorize. They're life verses. They're the kind of verses that you write down somewhere so you don't forget them. But chapter 4 is full of these kind of verses, but there's several in chapter 2 and 3 as well that I wrote down here that we don't have time to go over. But anyway, if you read, I'm sure you picked some of these out for yourself. Tomorrow, we're going to be in the book of Philemon, which is real short. I think it's one chapter. And then we're going to read 1 Timothy chapters 1 through 3. It's going to be a good read. It's going to be a fun time. Look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow. And in the meantime, be safe.